welcome to the Friday 15, where every Friday, 12 p.m. Central Time, we answer the questions that you have been lovely enough to submit to us. And if you have a question yourself, you can go to hostagencyreviews.com/Friday15. We would love to hear from you and love to get some great questions. And speaking of questions, we have great ones this week. We also have a co-host on. Hello, April.
Hello, how are you?
Good. So for those that this is your first time tuning in, April Swales was with Uniglobe Travel Center. She's a frequent Friday 15 co-host. So you might see her in the future, or if you're listening to past ones, you'll probably hear her voice there. So well, one thing to note, I'm gonna I'm gonna put a link into the comments. We just wrapped up host week. This is our second, I think, Friday 15 past host week, but we were just saying it feels like host week just ended. I'm going to put a link to Uniglobe's Meet the Host interview for host week if anyone's interested in tuning into that, because that's always fun to hear. And then, April, we've got some great questions. Our first one is from Anonymous. They're wondering, what is the process of switching host agencies? I'm unsure if my current one is a good fit, but I do have trips booked while using them, and I'm unsure if I can bring them to the new host.
Okay, so that's a great question. I'm sure it's crossed a lot of people's minds, throughout the industry. So I can only tell you how we would recommend somebody doing that. Because we do have occasional situations where people don't feel like Uniglobe is the right fit and they want to move on to someplace else. And we celebrate that. Not that we want people to go, but it's important for you to feel like it's right. So how we would handle it is I would always advise people first to go back and reread whatever agreement that you have signed with the host agency. You are an independent contractor, so there are things that you have the ability to do as an independent contractor that I think a lot of people don't realize. They think they can't work under 2 IATAs, or they think that they can't move bookings, and it all boils down to what you've agreed to. So that would be my first suggestion. My second suggestion after reading through it is making sure you have an open and honest conversation with the host agency. This is a big industry, but it's also not big, and you really don't want to go burning bridges. Nobody wants to make you suffer, but at the same time too, you might be surprised at the level of support that you get from the host agency if you just have that open and honest conversation. So once you've done that, then you guys can put together a plan on the best way forward. How Uniglobe would handle it is if a booking is not under final payment, and if the supplier allows you to move the booking to a different IATA, that would be the first thing you would do is see what bookings can be moved. So there's less there that you're having to try and phase out. And then anything that cannot be moved, we would require that you continue to manage that booking in order to earn the commission. Any host agency is going to do that because a lot can happen from the time that you book a trip until the time they actually travel. So in order to earn that commission, you must manage the booking. So you would pay whatever fee you and the host agency have agreed upon to have access to the portals that you need. And then once those trips have traveled, then you get paid your commission, and then the access is taken away and you're free to go. But in the meantime, while you're waiting for those trips to travel, anything new is being booked on the new IATA number. So that way you're phasing out the old and continuing to work on the new. That's how we would handle it. So that's why I say, everybody's a little bit different. You should definitely have that conversation, but you want to make sure that you and your current host agency are on the same page, because it doesn't do anybody any good to come at it with, fists a-flying,
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be that way. It can actually be quite pleasant. If it takes some time, but it can be very pleasant as long as everybody's working together on the same page.
Yeah, and I would always recommend every situation is different, but it's really a great idea if you have a good relationship with your host agency and maybe something went awry, or there's a new support person that you're not really jiving with and it's not working. It's a lot of work to change host agencies. And so if you can repair that relationship and have an honest conversation, sometimes that just doesn't work and you're past that. But if you can, I would encourage you to talk with the host. I was just talking with an agent that's, possibly thinking about moving host agencies, and she was saying, but I really love it. The only thing is they're only giving me, say, 80% commission, and I can't go above that. And it's
Mhm,
just not competitive with what's out there. And
mhm.
so she's having this open and honest conversation saying, I want to stay here. I love what you've done for me, but this
This
doesn't
is the
work
sticking point.
financially for me and it's not competitive. So they're trying to work through that.
Right.
And I'm going to put in a couple resources. One is the article we have on switching host agencies. So things that you need to consider. It's a great article. I'm with April 100%. It all depends on what's in the contract.
Mhm.
And so when you're looking at your new host contract, now you'll realize even more how important it is to look at that contract, because you'll be
Read
like, oh,
them.
shoot, I didn't know to look for this.
They're
But
legal documents. You should definitely
yeah,
read them.
yeah. And we'll
And
also link to our article on contracts and things to make sure that are in there.
yeah, and I agree with you. If you can repair whatever has gone awry at the host agency level, then I think you should try because, host agencies don't know there's a problem unless, I mean, if it's something that is foreseeable or we've seen it before, obviously we're going to help you address it. But if somebody's upset about something that maybe they saw in the larger community network of somebody was sniping at somebody. I mean, we don't know these things unless people say something to us. And we
Yep.
certainly want to help you. That's what we're here for. So yes, absolutely try and repair it if you can. But those
Mhm.
are my suggestions. If it's irreparable and you're ready to move on, those would be my suggestions.
Yeah. And so for people on the broader scope outside of UTC, usually every host is going to be different. Some of them won't allow you to transfer bookings at all, and that
Correct.
will be in their contract.
Mhm.
Some of them actually, when you leave, they'll manage the booking for you and you won't have access to it. So the other thing you'll want to make sure you do, depending on what the situation is upon your leaving, is before you talk with the host, making sure that you're downloading any data that could be important if you feel like there's a reason they might shut you off right away and lock you out of the network. Download that information. I'm trying to think what else. The the one thing that is gonna be the same across the industry is if final payment has been put on a booking, there's no way to move it to another agency. And so no matter, this isn't something like a host agency is being spiteful and saying, "I can't move this booking." It's
Mhm.
I'm not actually sure the root cause behind it. I'm guessing it's something with the supplier systems and how it pays
Well,
commissions.
my guess would be yes, it would be based on the commission payment because some suppliers pay commissions before the client travels,
Mhm.
and then some pay after, and some pay a portion. And clawing back a commission that's already been paid is a nightmare for everybody: the supplier, the host agency accounting team, and the advisor themselves.
Yep.
So I understand why they do it that way.
Yeah, but that's just so people know that's not something you can ever get is
No.
after final payment, things are locked in with your host agency.
Mhm.
And then the last resource we'll put in is a link to our travel industry attorney list. So if you have questions about a contract, if something seems fishy about a host agency you're thinking of going with and moving to, definitely talk and reach out to a travel industry specific attorney, because they're very familiar with host agency contracts.
Yes.
Uh, oh, I did find another, I did remember another resource I want to put in. So we also have an article on how to find the best host agency for you. And so we'll link to that as well. It's got a great Excel sheet for comparing host agencies if you're on the move.
Nice.
Uh, This next one is a fun question because I've never gotten this one in. So this is from Tracy E. And Tracy's wondering, how do you face your fear about marketing your travel business on social media if you are an introvert? And April, I know you're an introvert.
Hmm.
Give us the dish.
I would tell Tracy not to do anything that didn't feel authentic to her, because it's going to come across that way in the media posts and such that you're putting up. So if Tracy, if you don't want to be on a Facebook Live or you don't want to be on have a video selfie of yourself, I would tell you not to do that.
Yep.
There's people are perfectly happy to follow along with your travels if that's what you're posting, with just pictures of the scenery where you are, or maybe I always used to laugh at people who would take pictures of their food, but I find myself doing that all the time when I travel because it's one of my favorite things to do when I travel is eat. So people are certainly happy to follow along in that way as well. Or just if you put a fun anecdote or something like that. And obviously that would be text versus a picture of you if you don't want to be pictured. But there's lots of different ways that you can market your business these days through Virtuoso, the consortia that we partner with. We have access to a social media marketing program, which is fabulous. And Virtuoso has a professional marketing team that puts together these gorgeous, like polished posts, and they're posted to your social media accounts. And it's all done with, under your company branding and everything. I mean, it does link to articles and such that would take them to the Virtuoso website. But when they go to that Virtuoso website, it's actually like your white label site where it has your headshot and your branding and ways for them to get in touch with you. So you don't have to put yourself out there in a way that doesn't feel right for you. And a lot of your marketing is going to depend on who it is you're trying to reach. So what message is going to resonate with them, with that ideal customer, and what are they interested in seeing? So don't feel like you have to do one avenue of social media marketing just because you see other people doing it that way. This is all about what you want for your business.
Exactly. And I asked Mary on our team. So I'm kind of smack dab in between introvert and extrovert, but Mary's very introverted. And so I asked her, and she had some ideas about, making sure that you have a friend look at it and beef
Mhm.
up the language to make sure that you're making yourself sound as great as you really are, and then automate it so you don't have to keep looking at it, is some of her advice. Um, and then she says, like, have a bunch written up that your take a friend out for drinks and they can take a look at them and go through them with you. But um, I'm going to, I was telling April before we went live that I've been online. Like when I first came online, it was horrifying. I was just like, oh my God, like I don't want like my picture everywhere and la la la. But now it's been so long, I don't even care or notice. Like I
I
talk in
mean,
front of a camera all the time now.
yeah. Talking in front of a camera doesn't bother me. But for whatever reason, when people say, oh, get together, let's all take a picture, I'm like, oh, I hate it. And I don't know why I hate to
Interesting.
have my picture taken. We all enjoy looking at them after the fact, right? But it's just not something that I've ever loved to do. So, but when you put together the message on your social media, just if it's going to make you feel awkward in doing a video or a picture, then people are going to feel that. So don't be awkward.
Yeah, and there's like the beauty of having your business is you get to do like what feels right for you, and that's what's true and authentic to you, like you said, April. And so you don't need to. So there's a couple edge spots that happen during our host week that might be helpful for you, um, Tracy. And one of them is the Reels blueprint. It was something like making 30 reels in 20 minutes.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
and so, yeah, I've actually talked to a bunch of advisors that are implementing it, but that's like a great way for creating the content. But you don't necessarily have to like be the person in it in the face. So another edge spot that would be great for you to watch was one with Aubrey Jackson on Friday, and it was edge spot storytelling to sell. And she has had a couple viral posts. I think she does it on TikTok, but she was a news reporter. And so there's no picture of her. It's like she's reporting on the destination. And
Oh,
so, and then she puts the videos over it. So, like, it's a great outlet for your creative ways without having to like put yourself, your voice is on there, but you're essentially like, hey, the currency here, make sure, you have to tip, so make sure to bring extra money or make sure to have coins in your pocket for using the bathroom because you're going to be in Europe and da 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 da. Um, so that it doesn't need to be like where it's this you're doing a selfie holding the phone in front of you being like me on the beach or those awkward I I feel really bad because I'm not usually judgmental, but you know, so we're in Texas and we're on the beach and it was Mardi Gras like last weekend, but there were these like young 20-year-olds like on the beach. It was just like so embarrassing because they were, like posing by themselves and like doing
Yeah.
like the weird chin up and down and
Yeah.
different angles and hands on hips. And I was just like, they've been there for like 10 minutes taking pictures of
I know.
themselves. Like,
It's not, I can't do it. I can't do it.
it's not me either. So I don't think you need to think that this is what social media marketing is. It is for certain people, but that doesn't need to be what you need to do.
Right.
Because that's
Exactly.
obviously very uncomfortable for April and myself.
Mhm.
Oh, and then you did mention Virtuoso. So if you're not familiar with who Virtuoso is or what a consortium is, Tracy, I'm going to link to an article on what a consortium is for you too.
Mhm.
All right, last question from Lisa H. Not sure if this pertains to your Friday topic, but I have been looking for a jot form to create a link for a client intake. I want to add it to my social media posts or any emails. Thank you. Okay. So I think Lisa's asking about, we have a travel agent forms article that has
Mhm.
a whole bunch of form templates that advisors can use and customize to themselves. And we do have one for a client intake. So I'll link to that article. April, do you have anything to add about like client intake forms?
Yeah.
Like
In fact,
information?
we use Jotform for a couple of things at Uniglobe, but I never thought of using Jotform as an intake form, but that's a great idea. I would suggest too that you look at the forms that you could use through a tool like Travelify or TravelJoy if you're
Yep.
using those. And I'm sure other CRMs and itinerary builders have something similar, but with a form like that, what you're able to do is collect the client data securely. And I know with Travify, because I'm familiar with that tool, when you create something like that, you can embed a link, whether it's in social media or your website. And another fun fact about Travify is that they actually have a website builder, like templates and such, where you can build your website through that tool, and then you have everything on one platform, which is fabulous. So hang on, I'm sorry, I just got a ping on my computer. So I would say that you could use a jot form. Just make sure that I guess on the back end, it's going to send you. I know when people fill it out for what we use it for, I get an email alert, and I know what to go and look for.
Yep.
And if that's a great way for you to do it, then by all means. But I know that through the CRM or through Travify, which does have some light CRM features, when they fill out the form, it automatically creates that client profile for you. So you're not having to do twice the work. You're not having to create the
Yep.
form and then take the form information and create a profile. So it all depends on what kind of time you want to dedicate to it and resources, obviously. I haven't looked at the pricing at Jotform, but
Yeah, and Jotform, I think it's free up to 5 forms or something a month. I can't
okay.
remember, but
Yep.
it's a great point that with Jotform, standalone, it's great,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't integrate with Travify, TravelJoy, Client Base, anything along those lines. And so, um, if you're someone that's new and don't have TravelJoy or Travify, that's not going to be an issue for you. But if you are someone, they oftentimes have the form builders, and like Turn will have the form builders built in. That's like new features that have come out the last few years to make advisors' lives easier.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the other thing I wanted to share with you is that there's so many edge spots that pertain to this. There was an edge spot this year that was really cool with Betsy Gremanowski, who did I think her title is like operations or something, but essentially what she did was she was working on tweaking the agency she works for is Peak Travel, and she worked on tweaking uh their form that people submit when they're interested in doing a trip request. And so she tweaked it for like 4 months. And by doing so, I can't remember exactly what the stats were, but she was able to increase the close ratio by like double digit numbers and increase the amount per sale by quite a bit as well. And so she walks through what she did with that client. I don't know if I'd call it a client intake form, like a trip request form on the site.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a fun one, and we'll link to that so people can take a look at that as well.
Yeah. And I think you bring a good point up. It was such a brilliant way for her to test it, because I don't think people really pay much attention to the metrics of what they're doing.
Yeah.
When they're brand new, they're just so overwhelmed with the amount of information that and then they see somebody doing something and they're like, "Ooh, I should be doing that too." It's really easy to get distracted. But the fact that Betsy took the time to like really track what was going on, that's just, I
Mhm.
mean, and now she knows this is the secret sauce. This works for me. I think more people should be tracking their metrics. It's really important.
Exactly. Yeah, and, like, one of the big things they did that was helpful was, I mean, kind of setting the client up for success as well, because she's saying, "Where do you wanna go? Where in the world?" So you select that, and then, oftentimes people may not have any idea how much it costs to go on an
Right.
African safari or to go to
Mhm.
Southeast Asia versus going to Europe, and so by saying, "Hey, look at if you're choosing this destination, this is what we're looking at for costs. Does this still work for you?" And so the people that are saying yes, they're like, okay, they're ready for the costs that are going to be coming their way. And so it kind of helps. I don't want to say weed out, but helps self-select the people that are going to be the best fit for, it's a best fit for the client and it's a best fit for peak travel because they're not looking to do backpackers in Europe. They're looking to
Right.
do people that want to really enjoy Europe and are comfortable spending thousands of dollars.
Yeah. And getting to that information quickly just saves everybody time, not just
Yep.
you, the advisor, but them, the client as well, which
Yeah,
they'll appreciate.
exactly. Yeah. Well, April, thank you so much for coming on. As always, it's just wonderful to chat with you and get some information from you.
Always have fun. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And next up, so for upcoming weeks, this is the Friday 15. We have co-hosts. February 23rd is Jen Lee from Travel Planners International. March 1st is Connie Miller from Montecito Village Travel. March 8th is Lindsay Lauer from Travel Leaders 365. And those are all host agencies. So if you have any specific questions for these host agencies, you can submit them and we will put them up during their week. And again, you can do that by going to hostagencyreviews.com/Friday15. And April, as always, a pleasure. Thank you again for joining us and thank all
Thank
of you.
you. Thank you so much. And I appreciate everybody taking the time to spend and listen today. So thank you guys too.
Yes, and have a wonderful weekend, everyone. We will see you next week, Friday, 12 p.m. Central